Welcome to Verses and Visions Creative Conversations, where creativity and purpose meet to inspire and uplift. I'm Cassidy Beck, your host, here to explore the stories of artists, dreamers, and changemakers who are walking in faith and using their unique gifts to make a difference. Each episode is a reminder that your vision, paired with God's purpose, can transform the world around you. Let's get started and spark some inspiration together. Hey friends, before we jump into today's conversation, I've been thinking about those small, meaningful things that bring us together. For me, that's often sharing a bottle from my family's premium soda company, Soda Beers. Whether it's crisp ginger beer, smooth butterscotch beer, classic root beer, original apple beer, or apple beer 5, our low-calorie twist, each flavor is a small little reminder of home and of the simple joys. Okay, now let's dive in. I am delighted to be talking to Candace and Jodi. Candace and Jodi have a ton of experience and shared interest. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us.
Good to be here.
Candace J. Thomas is an award-winning fantasy author. Candace is newly named president-elect of League of Utah Writers, a nonprofit organization that helps literacy and community among writers in Utah. As a podcaster, Candace is a free-spirited counterpart to Jodi's grounded, well-researched logic, creating a good balance of good advice and whimsy when writing. Find more of her website at CandaceJThomas.com. Jodi Milner is author of Shoutouts trilogy and co-host of Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers. She was honored as a Volunteer of the Year for her leadership and service in the writing community. She lives in Utah, where she writes, teaches, and wrangles children, chickens, and magical sidekicks. You can find out more about her at her website, jodimilner.com. What is a song, a quote, something that you're finding inspiration from right now?
Can I say Golden from K-pop Demon Hunter?
Oh, yes.
Like that low-hanging fruit right now.
Right now it's autumn and it's my favorite time of the year. The colors and leaves, the different music that I hear, I'm all about the sweaters, and that inspires me. I do get really inspired by lyrics. If there's a song that really speaks to me, specifically when I'm feeling autumny. Is autumny a word? I feel
Absolutely, it is.
When there's almost a gloom to it, I like to revel in that gloom a little bit. That always really inspires me during this season.
Interesting. Both writers, you're both podcasters. And so I feel like there's a lot of sources of inspiration. It's interesting that Jodi, it came from music, and Candace, yours kind of came from a season. And the way you were describing it, it was almost more like visually something that was inspirational for you right now.
And that's really what us writers do, is we just alliterate our world. We're often thinking about the story behind things that we see. In my writing, I will often talk about places I've been and describing that as it's an actual character in the story. And that's really where every time I'm looking at anything, I'm always feeling the story behind anything that I see. What do you think, Jodi?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. It's true, though. Where you draw inspiration from can be pretty much anything. Current books you're reading, where else spark an idea, and you're like, "Ooh, this thing mixed with that thing. This is a new thing. I like this new thing. Let's see what this new thing will do." It falls when I start reading more books. It's something about the days being shorter that I just want to cram literature. And so I've been on a binge lately. Love me some good books.
I loved, Jodi, your comment that inspiration can come from anywhere. I was listening to your podcast and I thought it was intriguing where you said you work at a blood bank and you were inspired by an experience from a blood bank. Will you elaborate on that?
Certainly. One of the things that I find funny, because as a scientist, I use writing as an escape because I have a pretty stressful job. And I'll be saving people's lives daily. There comes a lot of inspiration from my job. If you have donated a unit of blood, we also have something called platelets. This platelet, a unit of platelets is about this big and it just swirls around and it's yellow and it looks like a thin pillow. My friend was handling it and there was something that got caught and it broke when he was handling it and it splashed him. And he got some in his mouth. It tasted like condensed milk. That was surprising to me. I love caramelizing anything when using condensed milk for that. I jokingly said what the vampires are missing. If they only knew, they would be drinking platelets instead of blood. And then I got this really funny idea of these high society vampires swirling goblets of platelets. It was an exclusive club. That was the beginning of my novel, where this nerdy guy doesn't believe he's a vampire. He feels that he's sick and has some kind of deadly disease, but really he's just turned into a vampire. And now he has to deal with daily life as being a vampire when you're afraid of blood. So that story with my friend was the beginnings of that novel and my character. There is a moment in that story that I do talk about those high society platelet swirling vampires. But with saying all that, it's really interesting where you get ideas and inspiration comes from the strangest places and often unexpected, I think, for me specifically.
So that leads to an unexpected question, but listening to this story and then how your imagination took it and ran with it, if there was technology that would allow someone else to enter your imagination with you, would you let someone come on this journey with you?
No. No.
Days where it's Sesame Street up there, and there's days where it's significantly darker.
No, I value my own creativity. I would never want to spoil anything for anybody. So I would rather share it through words and through their specific envisioning of what I have in my brain.
Honestly,
interesting.
this would be like Willy Wonka land, but it would be amazing.
It's like Candyland.
Music, like an open browser tab where you're like, where's the music coming from?
Yeah.
Some friends who are naughty tab users and some who are very responsible with their tabs. I find I'm a responsible tab person.
Responsible tab person.
I
So,
can't have more than 3.
have you ever have ChatGPT roast you? It's funny. I did it, and one of the things that it said was that you have 20 tabs open and no one can know where the music is coming from. So you literally just described how ChatGPT roasted me.
I did have ChatGPT write me a rock anthem with lyrics that I gave it ideas and I said, create these lyrics. And then a friend put it into Sora and created my own personal rock anthem.
That's awesome.
Do I have a personal rock? Yes. Is it a little strange? Yes.
That's amazing. So I am interested, as you guys have done this writing journey, what struggles and turning points have you had that have led you to where you are right now?
I think the whole process of getting a first book out is educational about yourself and your process and how to put thoughts on a page. The same kind of challenges come up for a lot of people. How do I do this part? And then you figure out how to do that part. Just as soon as you feel good about doing that part, the next thing you're like, oh, you have no idea how to do this part now. You keep finding these weaknesses or these places that you need to learn more. And it's always this ongoing educational process, especially if you're self publishing. I get to learn 40,000 tiny skills and it never stops. I've got 3 full length novels out. I've got 10 different anthologies I've been partnered with. I've got multiple small projects. I'm still learning 1,000 things constantly. It never stops. It feels like that would get exhausting after a while, but it's really fulfilling. Looking at yourself from 5 years ago, you're like, holy moly, I'm not the same person anymore.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I had really low self-esteem. I didn't believe in my process or my projects. until I sought out a publisher. They taught me how to be a writer. It was confirming to me that what I was writing is actually good. I needed that experience to grow as a writer and as a person. The person I was before I published is not even close to the person that I am now. There's no way that I would have had personality to take on being the president-elect for the League of Utah Writers. That is a huge responsibility. And everything that I've done in preparation for this role has been a lot of self-learning, but also a lot of believing in what you're doing is good and inspiring others to do well. The biggest lesson I learned is that I am capable of doing amazing things that I never believed I could do before.
It is a brave and courageous step to take, both
Sure.
of you, because you don't know the things that you don't know until you start and you're like, oh, wow.
The thing about writing is your words are really private. What you're
Mhm.
writing is extremely personal,
Mhm.
and you're letting other people read it and critique it. You're doing this on purpose, which can get really hard, specifically if you're one of those people that need to know how you're doing or how your reviews are doing. It can get really difficult to expose your writing like that. It's very difficult to share some of your writing when you're doing critiques. It's a brave business in general, writing
Totally
it.
agree. Totally agree. I love the name of your podcast, Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers. I love that so much. The last episode, if I'm not mistaken, came out in June. Tell me what made the decision to take a hiatus and how is it going now?
The thing about just taking a break is we had been doing this constantly for 2 years, an episode every week. I know it was stressful on both of our writing careers. You would either need to focus on the podcast or your writing. I wasn't writing at all. Jodi somehow managed to do stuff, but she
I
also
couldn't
had to.
put 2 books out. I could have more books out. I was putting between 4 and 9 hours
Yeah,
into
she
the
did all the
podcast every
editing,
week.
and so I think we want to see where it was going and if it was worth continuing with all the amount of hours. Are we contributing enough to have people really enjoy it and want more?
And then
Sure.
sometimes you get to a point where it's just, are we still giving value to our listeners, or are we getting so spread thin
Mm.
that we're picking these kind of bright little
Random
momentary,
ideas.
these random ideas out of nowhere and not really sure if they have enough.
Value.
Is there enough value? Is there enough things to talk about? Sometimes it's an idea and then we'll start talking about it.
They turned out really well, though, honestly. See,
Enough
that's
research.
Jodi and I have been friends for years. When we considered doing a podcast, Jodi was the very first person I thought of because there's a chemistry between us. We continually banter and feed each other different things. I felt when we started this that we were very alike. We are not very alike. And when you see that combination, it becomes extremely fun to have those quick moments doing that podcast. Really fun. I do miss it and I hope one day to come back to it. But right now, I know that both Jodi and I need just a little bit of time to regroup.
Candy's new position in League of Utah Writers, it's demanding.
I was really nervous
Probably
and scared about doing that.
more
So,
hours than you'd ever expect it would
yeah.
take. Part of this was in respect of giving Candy some time and space to move into this new position where there isn't this other looming project hanging over.
That's true. We'll see how that
So
goes.
I do really want to finish my book because it's gone on too long. My last one came out in 22.
Yeah, it's been a
It's
while,
been
but I'm inspired. I haven't felt inspired in a really long time. And now I have stories, so many stories, I don't even know which one to focus on. I love having creativity streaming back to me like that because I have the time. That's really nice.
That is interesting because it seems like Creativity is one of those things that's really hard because you can get overstimulated and it can shut creativity down a little bit, but you need a certain amount. Have you guys ever had an experience with the sensory deprivation tank?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Okay, I want to hear about yours. So for me, I was like, oh, this is my hope. It's just nothing. It's just completely nothing. I did not do well with that. I feel like I completely shut down, except for a little bit of panic. And I was thinking I would have all of these ideas and be able to think all the thoughts that I've been wanting to. As is not what happened. But tell me your experience about it, Jodi.
I do meditation. And so trying to enter the quieter headspace is something that I'm very accustomed to. So I was curious how it would be if you removed all of that external stimuli and got to have this space to yourself. I was kind of excited because they're like, you could hallucinate. I'm like, let's try it. For me, my neck didn't want to support itself. My neck got really angry. I could not relax it, which was so odd. It's an hour session, and I don't want to spend my time figuring out full thing.
Mhm.
But I had to keep on bringing myself back into that. It is okay to have thoughts go away. It is okay for them to enter my space. I observe them, I let them go. The last 10 minutes, there was that I think I need to be done now feeling at the end.
When you guys started this podcast about being distracted, tell me your experience. How did you work to turn it into a strength instead of a weakness?
I think that was
Ooh,
the idea from the beginning, right? When you do a podcast, you need to stand out in some way. There needs to be something that you are bringing that's different and unusual. And when you looked at both Jodi and I,
we're a
what would
little
you call it? Yeah,
just a
that's a.
smidgen of neurospiciness to keep things interesting.
And when we talked about our platform, what would we do? It came down to we don't have the attention span for long podcast. So do small nuggets of our ideas. This would be a way to share our knowledge that we've learned over the years of being writers. The title Squirrel came pretty like we went that really suits us, and I immediately came up with the design with the squirrel and we started moving forward and things started to fall into place.
It was also a way of respecting who our prospective audience was because we wanted to reach people who were like us, who had a whole lot of things on their plates raising families, managing households, holding jobs, volunteering, like all the millions of things that busy people end up doing. Like we wanted to be the podcast that supported these busy people who felt like they wanted to be creative but also felt guilty because their life was getting in the way. We wanted to be like, it's okay for things to get messy. It's okay for the creative process not to go like anyone else's. Like we wanted to support people who are just like
And we've
us.
gotten a lot of good feedback. People have reached out to us and said, thank you for showing that as a mother, I can still be creative and be what I want to be. Both Jodi and I are proof that you can raise a family. It's really healthy to express that creative side so that you're not just taking care of little bodies. You are a creative person with a lot that can't stay bottled up. It needs to be used in some way to be healthy.
Yes, I totally agree. What stories or feedback have you gotten that surprised you the most?
It did
Hmm.
shock me when someone came up and they're like, I've listened to all your episodes. I'm like, it's like imposter syndrome where you're like, I know we're doing all of this and I can see numbers on my dashboard, but it's hard to have that translate to people. When somebody comes up and they're like, I've been listening, my first instinct is panic. What have you listened to?
Mhm. I think one of the things that was most surprising for me is that I was reaching people around the world and became more global. It's really exciting when you're local and somebody comes and they know who you are and you get to sign books. But when somebody reaches out to you from India saying, I loved your books, that was really strange for me to have this audience clear across the world that really gravitated to my fantasy novels. The fact that they could reach me so quickly was surprising. and how fast my media can get there. That was a big surprise for me.
Jodi, you mentioned it was like a weird type of imposter. I like to talk about that on this podcast. Is that something you've experienced? And if so, how have you pushed through that and continued on your creative journey?
It's one of the things that I've taught about in different conferences because I'm fascinated by people who are super successful, who are doing really well. If you ask them about it, the first thing that comes out is just, oh my gosh, I had no idea that would happen. Oh my gosh, that was such a surprise. You know that they've worked like huge amount of time and effort to get to where they are at. And there's all these stories of really famous people being like, yeah, I just keep on waiting for someone to tell me I shouldn't be here. I hear when I'm amongst people that I'm very comfortable with, amongst our local writing organization and all the people I've met here locally, it's comfortable because we understand our friends. It doesn't matter where you're at. We all lift each other. It's terrific. I went to a conference in Colorado and proceeded to have a 5-day panic attack because I felt so out of my depth. And I was surrounded by all these people that seemed just so immensely talented and super successful. And they knew where they were going. I'm just like, I'm lucky if I get clothes that I should wear outside on most days. Mm.
Candace, what about for you?
I have moments of self-doubt. I think everybody does. I think that's normal, specifically when you're a creative person, because there's not a measure to it. It's hard to vision where you're taking your own creativity. What I've seen is not so much me having doubt in my ability to create, but what's my purpose? Am I influencing others? Are they getting what I was trying to say in these novels? Is the message ringing true? That's where I'm more questioning my talent. I want to make sure that people are being inspired by what I'm doing. That's the most important thing to me.
And that is a hard thing to measure. Like the inspiration of someone else. I do hope that people are getting the message, and you don't always know if they are.
Sometimes people surprise me and say, I remember this part in your book, and I'm like, that was important to you. Those are awesome moments because then I know I've influenced them. Because if they're quoting that and making it part of their favorite books, that means a lot to me.
Oh, that's a huge success. You know how much I love sharing stories that inspire faith and hope. I'm excited to tell you about my new children's book, Sheep Chronicles Baptism. It's about Joshua, a curious boy with big questions about baptism, and the parable of a lost sheep named Shannon, shared by his wise grandpa. It's been such a joy to write this story, and I can't wait for you and your family to read it together. What successes and or failures in writing or podcasting do you feel like you've learned the most from?
I really feel sometimes I've let my family down because of the time that all of my writing, being part of organizations, doing the podcast, how much time that has taken away from being with my family. As my children have grown, I was published when my youngest was 5. So she's grown up this whole time with me being an author, but she doesn't like to tell it to her friends. When her friends hear that I'm an author, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. But she does not like to, it's just a thing in her life. And when I'm stolen away, she's just going to a conference, she's just doing her thing. I feel bad that I've really tried to be there at the important moments. Have I been there emotionally for them in critical moments? I don't know if I will see until years later to see if I did make an impact. Parenting is a weird mixed bag. You never know what's gonna affect people and how they're going to grow out of that. My biggest failure is one of my biggest successes, having them recognize the hard work that I've done. And they see that in a lot of things, specifically when I took this new position as the president-elect. It's something they're extremely impressed by. This is what my mom achieved.
I wouldn't weigh things in success or failure because all of it is different flavors of learning opportunities. Sometimes you do something that's really stupid and you're like, okay, I'm going to learn a lot from that. I think one of my more potent learning moments was trying to make the Amazon algorithm work for me. I learned so much. I, I have a better skill set should I want to try it again, but right now I'm going to let that calm down. I started a book during NaNoWriMo, wrote 50,000 words. I get a lot of words on the page, but they're never good words. Most of my first book went through Nano at one point or another because ooh, I want to be part of a community. I don't want to write a lot of words. Did I have to go back and rewrite most of them? When I was starting, that felt like a win. Look at all these words I'm putting down. I'm a professional writer. Huzzah. But when it takes you 4 times longer to edit those words than it would have been if you just written them right the first time, there is no right, correct? There's just increasingly better. One of my bigger learning experiences, yes, you can write quickly if you have the skill set ready, but I never went into that prepared. It was always like last minute, oh, November is tomorrow, and let's just dive in because I trust myself to do something. And it always ended up being this hot mess. So that's not really a success or a failure. That's just an interesting anecdote of something I learned about myself.
But I really
But
like what your
we'll keep it.
perspective about saying that it was like success and failure isn't, they're just different ways of learning. I really liked that idea.
On what Jodi's saying, it made me think of a lot of writing and being an author is feeling ups and downs all the time. There might be a day when I have a good spike and have a lot of numbers and people are buying my books, and then a couple of weeks later, nothing is happening, and you feel that failure. It's a constant roller coaster of, am I good enough or do they like my stuff?
It's not for the weak at heart at all. I had to stop looking at my numbers in the morning because it'd be like, oh, I'm bummed out. I did X, Y, and Z. Something should have happened by now. Nothing's happened. Cool. One more thing that doesn't work for me. Yay.
Yeah. So as writers, you could write something over and over again until the end of time and it will never be perfect. So when is your, okay, this is good enough to be published?
There's a quote I heard and it stuck with me forever. Projects are never completed or perfect. They're just abandoned. You're finally ready to be like, I'm so tired of this. I'm going to let it go now. And sometimes you feel really good about a project and you're like, yay, I did all the work and it feels fabulous and my editor loves it. Off into the world. But usually it's yeah, I'm ready to be
Yeah.
done with this now.
It's gone through many different people. You get sick of it. It's time to go. I will say, though, the writer I was at the beginning is not the writer I am now. Would I love to rewrite my early work? Yes, I sure would. Sometimes I'm going, oh, this is really good. And sometimes I'm like, I cannot believe I came up with that. It's awful. I would love to rewrite some of my stuff, but the fact that it's in a time capsule and preserved as the younger me without any kind of tainted expectations of being what a writer or what an author is. No,
Absolutely. What are you most proud of in podcasting and in writing so far?
there are specific things that contributed to my success. My debut novel, Tara, won the Diamond Quill Award, which is the novel of the year back in 2013. That being my first novel launched me into a very busy world, conventions and talking about writing. It just threw me into this weird world. I needed that to move forward. Probably my Volunteer of the Year award. Jodi was awarded it this year. I was awarded it last year. Probably why they asked me to move into the president-elect position.
And now everyone's looking at me saying, you're next. I'm like, great, it's got at least 2 years.
Yeah, you do.
Congratulations on both of those. What about for you, Jodi?
So it's such a crazy roller coaster. Sometimes I'm really proud to push through one of these projects that takes hundreds, if not thousands of hours to complete and to keep going to the end. But then knowing you have so much more to do after you finish that part. And a lot of times it's just like being able to sustain the energy for these really long projects. When I do get finished, it's just, oh my gosh, I did something really cool. Look, I made a thing. Yay. It's exciting. And when it's well received and people get excited, like, that's really cool. It's all worse though. Like when you get all that recognition right out the gate, it almost freaks
There
you
was
out.
all of a sudden expectation, and I had no idea that was a thing, but I started feeling it really quickly. That's
Yeah, getting attention really quick freaks you out. I didn't get a lot of attention right at the beginning. I submitted the first book to the same contest, not the same year. My first book got a recommended read, which is like the honorable mention in soccer. It's just, thanks for coming. Here's your participation trophy. I'm like, cool. There's people that don't get anything, so I was happy to get something. But every year I put a new book in, I got something better. I'm like, oh my gosh, either I'm doing better or the imposter syndrome's like everyone's doing worse.
Agreed.
Really?
Yeah.
And so when I put my third book out, part of me, I don't think I could do any better than the last one because I know who I'm up against. These are people who write professionally for Star Wars. And there's a bunch of people who I have a ton of respect for. So I'm just like, I do this to support the organization. Getting prizes is nice, but I generally don't think it will be me. And yeah, I had a panic attack that night too. That was terrifying. My year was the first year they ever had a tie. And so they read the other dude's name first. So I was like, ah, sigh release. I'm safe. I don't have to do the wave and hello to everybody. And it was a tie. I'm just like, crap. I know who's on the conference committee, and people have been saying odd things to me for a day and a half. I'm just like, I love you too. I don't know what's going on. When they call your name, there is that moment of utter panic. Okay, I did something being recognized. I don't deserve this. Maybe I do. What's next? I'm super proud of getting a best book of Utah, but at the same time, it's really overwhelming. You're like, I don't know what to do with this. I can put it in my bio. Yay.
Yes. That is so awesome, and congratulations to you both. But I also hear you saying that it puts extra pressure for the next project and expectations that you didn't know were there, and all of a sudden they are.
Yeah, it's like performing in a spotlight. It's if you try to type and someone's looking over your shoulder and all of a sudden you don't know how to do this.
For me, I all of a sudden had an audience, a fan club, these people that wanted to know more in the story. When I signed with the publisher, they wanted all three of my books. Two were done in the series, and I had to write the third one. I always had an idea of exactly what I wanted to do, but now I had an audience that I didn't want to let down. And I had created problems in my novel that I had expected to be taken care of. But am I going to lose my audience if I kill off all my characters? Where does my audience fit in? They were always in my thoughts while I was writing my third book to make sure that they were considered. Because I wanted to be in that spot. So that was a really hard book. That was the hardest book for me to write because I think that's one of the pressures that both Jodi and I are talking about. We have an audience, and it's never about the first book. It's always about what's next or the backlist. That's how you become successful as an author. When you find those dream readers that love your stuff, they want to read everything that you've written. I know that I'm that person. I even look at them like they have a book coming out in April. I'm absolutely going to get it sight unseen. That's the person that I want to be for other people. So that's the kind of expectation I worry about mostly.
That's a lot. That's a lot. I like the visual that Jodi presented. It's like you're sitting writing with audience behind you looking over your shoulder. That would add a tremendous amount of pressure. I can see that. What's next for you? Do you have different collaborations that you are going to be working on?
I always talked about doing books, squirrel books. I would love to still do that.
Books. We just need to organize it.
Yeah. To complement our podcast, I'd love to do pocket guides on squirreliness. I know.
I love it. That's a great idea.
I have written this side character companion piece, and I've been doing it for I don't know how many years. It was before
At
COVID.
least 6.
Yeah, but that's one of the things, if you talk about failures, that one is one that I felt was going in a good direction, and then I gave it some rest, and then I looked at it again. I'm like, I have to rewrite everything. And it's taken me a while to figure out the direction of that book. My
Gross.
readers, I know that they've been anxious for something to go along with my series, and it's been fun to go back to fantasy. That's actually the project I'm working on the most. We're getting there.
The one that I've been working on since before we started being squirrely people was I was going to adapt one of my short stories into a full-length novel.
Mm.
I tried it one way and I got 35,000 words and I'm just like, what is happening to the story? It's gone so left field, I can't recognize it anymore. So I'm just like, save this for something else later and throw it in a drawer. I'm like, I'm going to follow, and I picked some story structure thing. I'm going to follow this story structure. I'm going to hang all the points from the short story in there. I'm going to flesh it out. I don't know what happened with that story either. At that point, I'm like, I'm going to turn a short story into a trilogy, Hobbit style. Because that went so well for Hobbit. I get to the end of my first draft, and I'm just like, I don't even know where to go from here. And so I'm just like, might be able to recycle this into something else. I'll put that in the drawer. I need a bigger drawer. And finally, okay, I'm going to write it. It's just going to be a standalone, dive into it with a whole new, changing up a couple of ideas. I'm really animated because I just watched a lot of Arcane. I've been working on that draft since last year when I realized it has to be a standalone instead of trilogy. Don't you have ever the moment of inspiration like, oh my gosh, that's a brilliant idea. That's going to take so much work. I've done multiple passes. This is a long story for a short answer. This book has two of my favorite things. It's got dragons, a snarky bard, and a bunch of magic. I'm very excited. I am so close. I've got 20 more short-ish chapters before this pass is over. It's going to be a polishing pass. I'm going to chuck it at my editor. She's going to come back with hammers and chisels and tell me all the things I've gotten wrong. But progress.
Progress. I love it. I love it. Let's keep
Sometimes you got to dory these projects, and sometimes
Yes.
you do have to abandon them. But this one, I'm just
Yes.
like, I've committed to this. I want to see it through. Point.
How did you two meet? It seems like you've known each other for a very long time.
It feels like a long time. I want to say it was LTUE 2014.
I think it might have been 2014. Jodi had published a short story with the publisher that my series was with. I had the first two out. You came and found me at FanX.
Yep. I
And then when I saw her at LTUE, I knew who she was. We hung out together, and that was pretty much it.
L2UE is life, the universe, and everything. You
correct.
talked about quills. I don't know what that is.
The Quills Conference is the League of Utah Writers annual conference that happens every August. Based in Salt Lake, we usually use the University of Utah. So that's how we met. It was just at these different conferences and knowing that we got along really well.
She said she saw a book in me when I was doing all these short stories because at the
Yeah.
time they're like, write short stories so people could get to know you before you put your book in. I'm like, that's a great idea. I spent too long trying to do short stories for publication and not making progress on a book. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have met Candy. We wouldn't have had a podcast, and I probably wouldn't have got my book finished. There's a lot of little dominoes that ended up being set up.
I've heard from both of you like this balance of family and an incredible career. What are some pieces of advice you would give for those trying to do the same thing?
Never give up, never surrender.
I feel that everybody has a bit of creativity regardless of what it is. And they should explore it. It's a healthy habit to do something creative. If that needs to be quilting, singing, writing music, or writing, or poetry, whatever, it is such a healthy habit to spend time on yourself and your own creativity and imagination. I feel it's important to inspire others. If I can do any kind of creativity that would help inspire others, then I feel like I've done my job. So,
And if all else fails, take Mrs. Frizzle's advice and get
yeah.
messy.
That was one of the things in our podcast is we coined you need to Miss Frizzle it.
Frizzle it.
So just get messy and it's okay.
I love it. Thank you both so much. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Cassidy. It's been a great time.
Thanks so much for spending time with me today. If you're looking for a family-friendly, refreshing drink, check out Soda Bears, my family's premium soda company. And for a faith-filled story to share with the little ones, don't miss Sheep Chronicles. Both are available on Amazon. Until next time, keep creating with purpose and faith.